Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. We got to talk about this rumor that's out there right now. Jake Guentzel, a trade target for the Vancouver Canucks. This one's kind of crazy because the Pittsburgh Penguins, you'd think with Sid, with Malkin, with the whole core, they're going to stand pat. They're going to go for a playoff spot, especially with Dubas there. I mean, Dubas' mission right now is continue with the playoff team and also try to recoup assets. So I would say debate right now is, can this be the move that Dubas makes to recoup some assets? So maybe Guentzel still returns in the offseason, for example. And maybe if you're Vancouver, you're like, okay, this is a great year. Rick Tocchet's showing really well. The team's showing really well. Goaltending, defense, forward, all across the board showing really well. Let's make a big move to show trust in our players, show trust in a guy like Elias Pettersson, and just go all in. So this was talked about a little bit. And also related to the Pittsburgh Penguins, this also came out from Elliot Friedman talking about, this was Saturday headlines, saying he heard Bunting's name out there and that Pittsburgh could be one of those names. He also doubled down on it on his 32 Thoughts podcast with Jeff Merrick, talking about Bunting being out there. And in relation to Pittsburgh, with Dubas having the familiarity, of course, with Bunting in Toronto, Elliot then says Bunting's name originally came up when Carolina was looking for a goalie. Of course, if you guys haven't been following the situation, Carolina goaltending struggles, injuries, Ranta waivers, all those things. So if you guys go to Cap Friendly Armchair GM, specifically with Guentzel, you'll see like a bunch of the trades online. I mean, these aren't mine, but it's interesting to see some of the scenarios, especially like if Guentzel could play with like fellow Americans and JT Miller and Besser. I think that'd be an electric line. I mean, we know Miller and Besser have played so well this season. So in a scenario where the Canucks are looking for a big fish, if there was ever a scenario where Dubas and the Penguins were willing to listen, like if Vancouver was willing to sauce a first-round pick, a second-round pick, a prospect, I think that's where you'd have to package a huge deal, whether you're re-signing Guentzel or not. I mean, Guentzel's a huge get. And I would say this is the one big perspective is when you're trading for a rental, you really don't know what you're getting most of the time. But with Jake Guentzel, you know what you're getting. The guy has performed big time in the playoffs. He scored some huge goals in the playoffs, so you know what you're getting in that aspect. So I think when you're putting together a huge package, first round pick, second round pick, younger player, I would even wonder if one of Garland or Kuzmenko would be in the deal. I think both, like Garland has had some interest from a lot of Eastern Conference teams. And I'm sure when Dubas was with Toronto, he looked at Garland, and I'm sure Dubas would look at Garland now. And same with Kuzmenko. I mean, he's been all around trade rumors. We've talked about it a lot on this channel. So I think when it comes to Kuzmenko or Garland, I think if Pittsburgh was looking for a big return for the now and future and still compete for playoffs, I mean, hey, they could look at a Garland or Kuzmenko, then collect a first or second round pick from, or both, from Vancouver. I mean, you know what? At the end of the day, if Vancouver could even get a shot at re-signing Guentzel, that'd be massive. But like I said, I think if they made a move like that soon, this is very hypothetical, but Guentzel with Miller and Besser would be electric. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. And again, if they acquired a guy like Kuzmenko, Pittsburgh, I mean, Kuzmenko could go right next to Malkin, and I think that could be a really natural fit. So you got to keep that in mind. But I think there is a scenario where Pittsburgh and Vancouver could be trade partners in any sense. But definitely Kuzmenko, Garland, Guentzel, I would look out for those names when it comes to those players and the two teams obviously talking about it. But just quickly on the Bunting thing, I mean, the Bunting one is kind of weird for me, but I think in a scenario where there's a couple teams. So I think if Carolina was talking to Anaheim about John Gibson, I think they'd go for younger alternatives on Carolina. But I think if a team like Pittsburgh or a team like, I don't know, Nashville, or a team, I'll list one more team, a team like Buffalo. Like, I feel like those teams will look at a Bunting and see value. I would look at other playoff teams, like maybe out west. And again, Bunting, where would he want to go? I mean, I'm sure a team like Edmonton or Dallas would look at Bunting and see a lot of value. I don't know if Dallas necessarily needs Bunting, but again, there's a lot of teams that would value Bunting, especially going to the playoffs. But it's interesting that Pittsburgh's one of those teams. And yeah, we'll see where it goes. It's hard to look around the league and specific to like goaltending with Carolina, because if that's the only reason they're going to trade Bunting, then I guess it's just cap hit for cap hit. And then there's probably a lot of other goalie options around the league. The other one would be Detroit. I mean, Detroit's got 3 goalies, so maybe Carolina would see a fit there. And maybe Detroit would see value in Bunting. So there's a bunch of teams I could list off, but I'll just leave it at that. But guys, give me your thoughts on all these trade scenarios with Pittsburgh specifically, but across the board, Carolina, Vancouver. I mean, this one's huge, right? Like Jake Guentzel is a trade target for the Canucks, and this is coming from Donnie and Dolly, so you know this source is good. So, like I said, we'll see you in the next video or stream. Give your thoughts on these trade rumors. Talk soon. Peace.